All right. Welcome back to Horrifically Well Read, Bled, and Said. Today we have one of my favorite influencers, bookstagrammers, interviewers, reviewers, has his own podcast as well now, Mr. George Dunn. Thank you and welcome to the pod.
Thank
Welcome.
you for having me. I'm very, very excited to be here.
How late is it where you're at? Is it like we're 10 p.m. and we're
10?
recording at
Yeah,
5?
10 p.m. at the
Oh,
moment.
Thank you for joining us and
That
staying up
is
past your
quite all right.
bedtime.
Oh, it's quite all right. I don't sleep with all of the horror books I read, so
That's what
that's what I
Adam
was going to
said.
say.
Adam's
I'm
like
talking to you
he
at
must
like,
not sleep.
yeah, because I'm talking to you
no.
at 10 our time and you answer immediately. And I'm like, wait a second.
So like George, you're the epitome of chronically online.
Yeah,
Chronically
absolutely.
awake.
Chronically awake,
Yeah.
chronically online.
So to get started, we kind of always ask, has horror always been a part of your life? Is it something newer? What is your sort of history with this genre?
It is not that long and tumultuous. I was always a reader. There was a series in the UK, I don't know if you guys have it, called Beast Quest by Adam Blade. And I was devastated when I found out that was a pen name. There's
Mm.
probably there's probably 150 of them, and I used to do kind of one a day as a kid. And then as a teen, I was kind of on the precipice of fulfilling that stereotype of reading a Stephen King book too early and all that. But school and kind of the obligation to read kind of sapped that out of me. So I wish I had a teacher like Mr. Allen here growing up, but it was very much book talk that reinstated my passion for reading. And I did a bit of everything, thrillers and fantasies. I did a Colleen Hoover, which we won't talk about that, but eventually I kind of found out that horror was my niche and that was where it was at. So kind of the past 5 years, maybe it's been something that I've been really into, but only um, as obsessive as I am for the past 3 or 4.
Interesting. I'll have to look that up because when you say that many books, that has to become so much a part of your life. Like the fact that there's just that many of them and how formative that can be. Like I'm sure that it's available here. I don't think it's something that's like super popular. Like we always talk about, with US people that we're talking, it's like the Goosebumps or something like that. And that seems like there's so many and there's maybe 60 of them. So to think like triple that almost, that's
Yeah,
insane.
it is crazy. It was lifetime of birthdays and Christmas presents was just Beast Quest, and I still don't think I collected them all. But yeah,
Yeah. Is that more like a fantasy? Is it like almost like a Dungeons and Dragons kind of thing? What type of stories do they tell?
it's probably a fantasy. It follows this same guy whose name escapes me and his two sidekicks, and every adventure they go on is a new beast, which I suppose the name makes sense. But yeah, it's probably more a fantasy, but it's monsters, I
Yeah.
suppose. So maybe there's a bit of horror in it, but it's very much geared towards young children, so it's not too
Gotcha.
much. Probably a fantasy.
All I can envision, I don't know if they had those over there too, but the Animorphs series, which is where basically kids morphed into animals, but they were like if you read them now, they were the most shockingly unhinged books for like kids to read. Like the weirdest things happened in them, and they still have fantastic covers. But
See, all I'm thinking is every time you want to buy George a present, you got to be like, which one of these do you have? Asking the parents, what does he need?
oh yeah,
Just tell us
Yeah,
which one. Yeah, like, man, that's like the kid that's got every Lego. Like,
hmm
what do you need in your book or in your
yeah.
book collection?
It was pretty rough for my parents, but better that than
They struggled through it.
yeah. Do
yeah.
you still have these books? Is the real question.
Don't think I do. I imagine they're in a charity. Well, I don't know. I imagine they went to a charity shop
Yeah,
at some point when I kind of turned 13 or so. But yeah,
yeah. So, book talk and that whole culture sort of started. I think that, we were all both readers, my degrees are in literature and everything, but there was a huge period of time where we stopped reading as well. And it was the same thing basically that got us started. And I was always a horror reader. Rebecca was, but didn't realize it. That's kind of
Correct.
part of what we're talking about here. But it is very much like a sort of like a winding road finding yourself before you realize what it is that you enjoy. Was there a particular book or series of books or author that kind of like really solidified that you were like, okay, this is my sweet spot where I want to be.
Yes, it was the first ever book that I posted about anywhere, and it's The Troop by Nick Cutter, which obviously
Uh,
is a big one. People know about it, but
mhm.
it was one of the horror books that was big on TikTok. I was big on TikTok, and it was the one I picked up. And then I finished it. I read that ending. It obliterated me, and I snapped a photo and I said, put it on Instagram without a clue what I was starting. And that is the origin story. Yeah, Troop by Nick Cutter.
Amazing. And, not really knowing kind of where you were before that, that's not classified
Hmm.
necessarily as extreme, but it is the body horror, the graphicness, all that kind of stuff. That's diving right in there.
I know. I'm going to talk at length, I think, hopefully about trigger warnings and being careful, but I did not listen to that. I just
Yeah.
dove on in. Yeah.
Did you have any experience, and we have the Boy Scouts here. Is there something like equivalent there?
Yeah. We have scouts as well, but before that comes beavers and cubs. And I was a beaver and a cub, but I didn't make it to the scouts. I didn't like camping, and I'm kind of glad I didn't because of that
Yeah.
book.
What were you, Adam? A Weeblo?
Yeah, I guess I would have been I didn't do the Cub. Like, we have Cub Scouts and then just Scouts, and the in between, which I guess would be Beaver there, is a Weeblo, which is fucking weird as shit, but I did that for a very short period of time. Um,
Yeah. I had a
and just
brother
even
who
that short period of time, like, reading The Troop, I was like, "Holy fuck,"
it
being
takes
in
you
that.
back. Yeah. I have a brother who enlisted in the beavers, did 2 sessions, and said he didn't like the
Come
people shouting
on.
at him. So
I'm
yeah,
enlisted in the Beavers.
enlisted in the beavers.
So cute. If I had a son, which I don't, but if I did, I would enlist him in the Beavers.
I will too one day.
We have like if you're in older scouts now, it just finally became inclusive of
Yeah, because
you can
there was separate
yeah,
Boy
you can
Scouts and
actually
Girl
have
Scouts, yeah.
girls in it now.
Yeah, now it's just scouts and it's all inclusive, which is great. I've had students, girls that were in scouts, and it's pretty awesome
It is an
seeing the
awesome
things that they
program.
do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
The same level of character development as like a karate.
yeah, I wouldn't know. I didn't do any of
I
that
didn't do
shit.
either of this either, but I've talked to clients that were like, those are the main searches. Like if they want their kids to learn like coaching and development and all these other, but like scouts
That's cool.
seem a
I
lot
sat in my
cooler.
room and watched The Evil Dead, so
Your parents were like, go away.
yeah, pretty much. So very late 80s, 90s parents stereotypes of I don't wanna know where you're at or care. But, the Troop, it's really, really well known for its body horror. Is that something that, like, you still love a good body horror?
Yes, absolutely. I think there's something so inherently upsetting about body horror. That translates to films as well. It can be satisfying, but it's just grotesque at the same time. It makes you feel unsafe in your own skin. And I love that about it.
Yeah, definitely. I think that, like, that idea that when it a lot of times with body horror, and you think of monsters and all these other things, there's rules, there's something that you can do to stop it. Like, when the horror is your own body, it
Yeah,
really feels like there's nothing you can do, and I think, like, that just adds to the horrificness to it, which I just love.
I
Do
agree.
you
Have you
do you
read
have
oh,
like
sorry.
a book or a main image that comes to mind that like is your favorite body horror scene?
One that comes to mind early on is, The Divine Flesh by Drew Huff.
Hmm,
That one follows Jennifer, who is semi-possessed by a cosmic horror goddess called the Divine Flesh. Half the time she is a drug addict, and half the time is not in control of her own body, and that is a horrifying concept to me. That one, and then Clive Barker, just generally, I
yeah,
think, does body horror very, very well. There are some stories in Books of Blood. I'm thinking the Yattering and Jack, Rawhead Rex that just disgust me every time.
yeah.
What about you, Adam?
I think of, there's a lot of really good books, but whenever I think of body horror, the scene that always comes to mind for me is a movie, Takashi Miike film called Gozu, where, the main have you seen that, George?
I have seen enough of it today.
So there's a scene in that film. The whole plot is about this man trying to find his gangster mentor who's gone missing. And he finds this woman, and in like one of the main scenes towards the end, sorry, spoiler, but it's years old. This woman gives birth to a full grown version of this mentor that he's been looking for, which is
Oh,
like, in terms of, just that image of a full grown man being birthed by a woman, it just it's horrifying. The Fly also comes to mind.
I hate
Yeah.
that movie. Like, it's starting out with the fact that they harm a dog.
Yeah.
Like, that was when movies didn't even give a
Speaking of
like,
trigger warnings, yeah.
yeah. But yeah, no, that is disgusting.
Now people won't, yeah, finish books when anything harms, which I totally understand.
I
I'm
do
not
too.
making
Yeah.
fun of it. It's more, issues with things like that. But yeah.
Didn't you have wasn't there, like, some really good body horror in that book, The Swarm? Not The Swarm, I mean the with the bee, the red cover.
Oh, that's another Nick Cutter. Yeah. The
Yeah,
Queen.
The Queen,
Yeah.
yes.
Yes. I
There is
interviewed
some
him about
gnarly,
that
yeah.
one.
Yeah,
I
I
interviewed him
didn't even
about
end
it.
up reading it, George, because Adam kept reading me, like,
And
paragraphs,
gagging.
and I was like, "Okay, there's no point in me even reading it now, man, you've spoiled it."
I mean,
You're
for me, it's not even the bees, right? It's the ants in that one that got me more than anything.
Yes.
But I asked Nick Cutter if there was. I held that man accountable when I spoke to him. It was, yeah, he constantly terrorizes me.
Yeah, and he's such a just a lovely, normal sounding person.
They all are.
Well, yeah,
I'd use
yeah.
a pseudonym too if I were him.
Well, I feel like, it's the only one like, you guys have listed some really, really, like, good ones, but mine's just simpler than that, but it was just the scene where it wasn't even in a horror book, it was just in a regular female literature book, but it's the prison guard, and she's been locked up for being a witch, an apothecary, and he's like,
Oh,
"Hey, I can get you some better food here if you'll take a look at my arse worms."
yeah.
My
And
God.
and he had been eating, like, pig feet
Yep.
that had, like and they
Gone
just
bad. Yeah.
yeah, and these worms just like, to me, the fact that you just have worms crawling out your ass at any particular time,
Mm,
that did it for me, that's enough.
yeah, I do not. I'm not a worm fan.
Which is why
Yeah.
I'm ready to read Joey's Squirming All the Way Up, 'cause I
Yeah.
run oh, and when you said the ants got you more than the bees, but
Mhm.
just the cover of Gemma Moore's Itch.
Right.
Literally, like, I have that issue looking at, like, itching and ants and multiples of things,
Yeah.
plus tryptophobia.
Yeah, I itched the whole time. I tried to write a review. Can't speak. I tried to write a
Did you
review on it, and I
really?
just itched the whole. I did. Well, I mean, I did write a review on it, but
Mhm.
not very successfully, probably because I was itching the whole time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was definitely a book that I definitely felt myself, like, I was also scratching myself, like, and just kind of just felt bad in my skin. Well,
Yeah.
Yeah, there were just too many legs in it for my
yeah.
liking. So
Yeah,
many
I think
legs.
so. You read and you review very well all types of horror, but my friend Abby tells me that you kind of have almost like a little support system when you're reading the more extreme
Oh, this is funny,
horrors.
I didn't know about this.
Especially what was the book? Cows?
Oh my god, what a book!
Yeah. So do you find like do the books find you, or do you find the books when it comes to something like that? Are you looking, listening, having your ear out for something that it's like, this is one for the ages, and then you're like, okay, I'll take that challenge? Or does it just kind of happen?
Yeah, I am very morbidly curious. There is this perverse element of me that really enjoys seeing how far an author is willing to take something, and then how that measures up to how much I'm willing to stomach. So
Ugh,
and I think literature is a safe, controlled environment to do that. So I have no specific trigger warnings, but I'm not made of stone, and I just like seeing if I can be forced to crack.
nice.
And yeah, so if I hear a book is, big, gone viral for being vile, then I will normally give it a go. Playground by Aaron Beauregard, No One Writes for Free, Judith Sonnet. Every virally disgusting book I've probably tried because it went viral for being disgusting.
Yeah, we were just at the Books and Brews, and Juice Sonnet's line was like out and I was like,
Mhm.
Adam's like, I don't think that book's for you, man. But so now by the time we're at the end of this, George, we're going to need a PO box or an email address for any of our readers or listeners that want to be like, did you try this one yet? Like that we could just feed it to
I
you.
think the answer is probably yes.
I welcome them. I'm ready.
Well, it was funny. So I want to get back to those like specific authors in a little bit, but I really want to dive into almost the like psychology of why you think books like these exist and what place they hold for readers. So like what do you
Yeah.
think the purpose of a book like that is? Because I don't it is the shock value, but I think there has to be more than that, right?
Yeah, I
Gratitude.
mean,
Be
I
happy
think
with
there's a
your own body.
whole
Just kidding.
I think there's a whole reason why people might read and write it. I already mentioned kind of my morbid curiosity, and I think that very much serves a purpose. We slow down when we see a car crash. We watch true crime. We're kind of just
Mm,
twisted as people. My other very dull personal answer is that kind of what I said before we started rolling about. Sometimes when you read 100 contemporary horror books a year, they begin to kind of just merge into one another and get a little bit repetitive, same tropes, and I don't want to feel like that. So it's out of the box, it's different. But I think probably the main reason is that it's really honest. I find, the world is a awful, awful place. Often transgressive horror more than normal horror and horror more than other genres confronts that pretty head on. And I think, it's cathartic for that reason, in that it allows you to confront some very real horrors within
mhm,
that environment that's safely
mhm.
controlled.
Almost like it doesn't like mask, it's just kind of like, I don't want to say mask, but like a lot of times we try to do, you know, product marketing, packaging for anything. It's like, let's make this look really nice. Let's try to jazz this up. And like when you're dealing with someone that just is willing to write about the literal, like grossest and most guttural things, I don't know. I think there is maybe some perspective of swinging between that pendulum of everything of like capitalism marketed to you to like,
Yeah,
all right, we're not going to pretend anything is great and wonderful. And you just kind of somewhere in the middle.
exactly. Sometimes that's what you need instead of some fluffy romance in which everything works out perfectly. Because
Yeah,
that
you
that
just like,
happens sometimes, sure, but not as often as terrible things.
yes.
Which is a very optimistic point of view, I'm aware.
So I wasn't like too far off when I was joking about like gratitude. You kind of are like, all right, things are all right.
At least I'm not going
Yeah,
through.
Yeah. All right. All
exactly.
right. I'm going to read one of those soon. I
So
want to check it out.
yeah, so like we were at Books and Brews, and there was basically a whole like extreme horror room of authors. You know, Aaron was there, Christopher Triana, Duncan
Yeah,
Ralston, Judith, like all these people were there, and they're all very, very popular. They're also some of the nicest people you'll ever meet, which I've always found to be just fascinating.
yeah,
But I wouldn't have known that that was the extreme horror room
Yeah,
because as we went through and I interviewed everybody, like for little Books and Brews up there, you couldn't tell a difference between
well, yeah,
anybody. Like,
it's one of my favorite things is, obviously it's not going to last very long as she gets to know authors and everything. But whenever we go to something, she goes up to, it'll be Aaron or something, and she'll be like, "So, hey, what do you write?" And he's like, it's like those kinds of things. It's like she'll get to know it, but it's so funny to just see it and the lack of fear. And it's like, it's very funny for that. But I was just thinking, there is like that extreme horror in, that line between extreme horror and splatterpunk. I'm not always like still sort of trying to understand the difference and where they
yeah,
overlap and stuff. But I think that like there's those authors, and then there's authors like I would say Eric LaRocca is the biggest one that comes to mind,
yeah, yeah,
where a lot of extreme horror, not that it's I'm really trying to walk this line here because like a lot of extreme horror, the purpose is the extreme horror, right? The
yeah.
writing, character development, those kinds of things, they're almost purposely not there, right?
Hmm.
Whereas something like when you read Eric LaRocca's work, it's some of the most beautifully written books I've ever read, and it's some of the most disturbing things that I've read at the same time. And I feel like
Absolutely.
when I read, especially their most recent book,
Mm,
the first book in the Burt Sparrow trilogy, like I went into it and I almost would have a hard time explaining what the book is about because it's so dreamlike and surreal. And I walked away from it saying, there's no way I'm reading book 2 and 3. And then about a week later, as I'm thinking about it, I'm like, I wonder when book
Yeah,
coming out.
you did say that. You're like, okay, it's been enough time. Like,
Yeah.
I'm ready to go through it again.
Because it is so good and so off-putting at the same time. And it's hard to put words to that.
I mean, do you think it's just you're amazed at the artistry? Because I mean, it's hard enough to do one to write something so beautiful, but then to be able to conjure things that give you so much grief and
Yeah.
disgust and all. I mean,
Well,
really, it's a master. When you think
yeah.
of, I don't know, when you were talking, I thought about like painting, where you think like
Mhm.
someone's great at
grotesque, like almost painting, but it's also brilliant in its form.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, so I'll clarify the line between extreme and splatterpunk first.
Yeah,
I
Thank
think
you. I'd
in
like to
this
know.
explanation, for the record, both Roth James White and Judith Sonnet have excellent explanations that will be far better than this. But like you said, extreme horror is deliberately extremely graphic and is designed pretty exclusively to disturb and shock. And it doesn't really explore its taboos so much as it just kind of chucks in as many as possible. So, Edward Lee is a fine example. And then splatterpunk is a little more of a movement, a punk movement, hence the punk. And whilst it's the same kind of content, it's a little bit more stylized, beautifully written, like Eric LaRocca, philosophical. Um, I find that it tends to explore its taboos instead of just having the reader sit through it and take punch after punch and hit after hit. So
I've
that's
heard it
kind of more like
described
Eric.
Oh,
as potentially having more satire involved as well. That's why CJ Leeds sometimes gets drawn into
Yeah.
splatterpunk as well.
George, like, what would you recommend for like as a first book to try it? That
Ooh.
version or that genre, like for splatterpunk.
For splatterpunk specifics.
For splatterpunk, I would say, stuff like Eric LaRocca, stuff that doesn't compromise its quality whatsoever in its pursuit of
Okay.
shock. I think with Eric LaRocca, probably start with Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke, which is the big one. And it's
Okay.
what they're known for. It's short and sharp, and it moves at such a pace that you will finish it, I think. And then probably at Dark I Become Loathsome is a bit of a step up. And then We Are Always Tender With Our Dead, which is the first one in the Burnt Spire trilogy, is just, if you've done that, you can do anything. Eric
Okay.
LaRocca, Sarah Tantlinger as well. She has a book that I can't remember the title of. She, again, just like Eric, kind of has that same beautiful writing. And then Emma, who I know you've interviewed as well.
Yeah. Which one from Emma?
I'd say Crushed Snails is probably my
Okay, well
personal.
that would be my next one because I've only read the
Shoot me in
Shoot.
the face.
yeah,
with a
and I
beautiful
really enjoyed it. I was just reading Stephanie Rose's Hiding Lies, and that felt like that was a level of intense horror like that I hadn't ever read before, where I knew that like were this a movie, absolutely not, like would not have been able to watch, would have to turn away. And I kind of felt like I felt bashful in a way, like reading some of the lines, like I shouldn't be reading this, but like then at the same time she did such an amazing job with it, and we will interview her then.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I don't really want to stop reading it because she's doing such an excellent job with it. And, I know that this sort of thing really does happen, like whether it's in true crime or whatever. And so it just was like, I guess what I'm saying is I think I graduated to a new level of horror
Able to
'cause
handle.
I did. And, I actually felt like I could find the artistry in it, but also enjoy it.
Yeah. I mean,
Like there was a good story too. So I mean, like sounds like I'd be more of a splatterpunk person that would enjoy versus what did you say,
Extreme
extreme?
horror. Yeah.
extreme. Yeah. I'd say as well the other my other tip for getting into splatterpunk, because it is a hard genre to break into,
Okay.
would be there is a grey area. What I find to be transgressive might differ from what you find to be transgressive, and I think there are various authors that walk the line nicely between contemporary and transgressive. So we spoke about Nick Cutter at length already. I
Yeah.
feel, he used to write extreme under a pen name, Patrick Stuka. He has a novel called The Preserve that if you can get your hands on it, it's out of print, but if you can, be ready. And you can kind of tell sometimes with some of those passages, that guinea pig in the deep, the turtle in the tree. Yeah. So Nick
Mm.
Cutter for one, CJ Lead is another that we spoke about. Maybe with Rapture more than Mayfly, but you can definitely ease yourself into it rather than
Well, I
banning
really liked
boldly.
American Rapture.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, but she's the same person who wrote Mayfly, which is
Which
repugnant
is
in areas. That one a splatterpunk
very
award.
repugnant in areas. Yeah. And why do I feel like without saying a single thing to give it away to people that haven't listened, why do I feel like I keep seeing news stories of people actually doing that first repugnant thing?
in which book?
I
That relates to your shirt of CJ Lead ruined
Oh,
eggs for
ruined
me.
eggs for me. You're seeing news stories of this?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, thankfully you've not shared those news stories with me.
I'm
I'm good.
like,
Yeah,
okay.
feel free to not forward those on because I do not need to know.
Forward them to CJ and
I,
say,
I think I might have
"Oh,
actually. I
really?
think I did.
That's funny."
I'm going to go look now, but I really think I did.
Yeah. No, those are really great. And it's funny too because Nick Cutter is such an interesting because the books that he publishes under his actual name are no less brilliant, but like you just would never think the same person. Like I absolutely love the Saturday Night Ghost Club. Like I think
Yeah.
that's a brilliant book. And to think the same mind is coming up with both of those, it just goes to show that I think that a lot of times people think, especially extreme horror, splatterpunk, that kind of thing is not. Oh my God. Okay, hold on. Man rushed to hospital after stuffing 15 hard boiled eggs up his rectum. So at least they were
Wow.
hard, not soft boiled. But
Yeah.
so, okay. You'd think like after about 8 or 9, he'd say, I think we're good. But no, he just kept going. Okay.
Look, he
I mean,
slipped and fell on them,
Yeah,
okay?
exactly.
the commitment is there at least.
Yeah,
He didn't do it
hopefully there was
half-hearted.
some kind
What if
of.
the shell's cracked? Like, that seems kind of pointy
Well, it
and
doesn't
painful.
say the shell was still intact. He might have
Yeah, he might have peeled
shelled
them.
them. Yeah. But
Wow.
I'll be sure to send this to you, George, just so
yes,
you have it.
but I
That's
think that
okay.
yeah, but I do. I think sometimes the assumption is that there's less skill involved with extreme horror splatterpunk, and seeing these writers and the things, especially you look at American Rapture, which I think is an absolute masterpiece,
Yeah.
and like Eric, who I think is a brilliant writer as well.
You do. You always say he's just so masterful.
Yeah, their level of writing is just next level. What do you say to someone that's like, well, oh, extreme horror splatterpunk, they just kind of push it off to the side and say that's just the gross shit?
I disagree with a passion. I think, as we've established with authors like Eric, the splatterpunk, first of all, is masterful in that you have to conjure up such vile imagery and then write it in a way that is beautiful. And that requires, I imagine, I'm not a writer, an insane amount of skill. And
Mm.
then even extreme horror. I have read some incredibly visceral scenes that are beyond imagination, and they are just there for shock, but they shock well. And there's a degree of talent involved with that. There's got to be. So yeah, I think there's a lot of talent involved in both of those subgenres.
Yeah, I think one thing that always makes me laugh when people talk about it is, and we brought up Judith Sonnet, but the no one rides for free. you know People are all over the place with trigger warnings and content warnings and all that kind of stuff, but the idea of a book stopping and giving a second content warning to say, are you really sure? I think like is so brilliant on so many levels of like the dare that it represents to the audience.
Yes, it's genius.
Like it's so
Mm.
good.
And how many people do you think are like, yep, should have listened to that one?
I was that way about a page later, actually. So
Yeah.
He's like, yep.
Yup. Can confirm.
it reminds
Wow.
me
Like
reminds
I can't even like possibly fathom what this is, and I don't know that I want to.
but you're
You don't.
intrigued.
I am not going to say I'm not.
Well, do not hold me responsible. I am just the messenger.
I'm sending you the therapy bill.
Yeah. So it reminds me also, and I was not alive at the time, but seeing the advertisements for something like Wes Craven's Last House on the Left, the whole "it's only a movie," to keep reminding yourself it's only a movie, and it's very like it felt very similar to me for that. And when I think about Wes Craven, he was a literature professor. He was a very smart man, and I think that he kind of had a lot of the similar criticisms of how can you make such vile things. I think that very similarly to like what you're saying, where like this was, just coming off the Vietnam War, it was all these kinds of things that it's as much a reflection on, the vile things that we see in society as much as it is just creating something that could be considered exploitation. Do you think that these books are kind of doing the same thing for what we're going through now?
Sometimes, often, yeah, I think that they tackle a lot of very contemporary issues. I like to refer to it as tangible horror.
Mm,
I
Hmm.
always find a novel that could take place next door infinitely more scary than I find anything else. I think I said the other week in a TikTok or something, Seed by Anya Allborn and Come Close by Sarah Grant are the scariest books I've ever read. But then I put them down and I went to sleep and the horror was done. But
yeah.
what sticks with me, what really unnerves me, is probably a better word than scares me, is the kind of transgressive horror that could happen down the road. So Father of Lies by Brian Evanson is the book I'm going to
God,
use as an example, right? You've read
horrifying.
it?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. Yeah.
Tell
Yeah.
me, what do you guys mean by that?
It is not gratuitous. It's not gory. I don't think, but it is an examination of the church. It's very clearly a Mormon church, but it doesn't say that.
Oh,
It's full of complicity within it. It's paedophilia, and it left me just full of rage. And it's certainly transgressive horror, and that's transgressive horror without the blood. But it stuck with me more than any haunted house book there's ever been. I think.
Yeah, I think that, as you're realizing, and it is clearly a Mormon, but, it also really parallels a lot of things that we know were happening with the Catholic Church of, just moving someone around when they realize something is happening instead of
mm-hmm,
actually doing
mm-hmm.
something about it. And just sort of like, and oddly enough, it kind of relates back. We just watched a documentary about a woman that went missing on a cruise. And it's sort of the same thing where it's like, the main thing is protecting whatever this powerful entity is, and the
Yeah,
individuals don't matter as long as the corporation or the church is protected. And reading that book, and it's written very like almost documentary like,
yeah.
that it's so you're like, okay, this might not have happened, but this happened.
This sounds like my style. I
I
love reading.
nice.
I know that sounds bad, but it's like I love reading like human horrors. I like things that kind of, are fiction, nonfiction. You know what I mean? It's clearly
Yeah.
why it's so disturbing is because it's a fiction book based upon nonfiction things.
Well, let me give you two more recommendations then. So
Okay,
the
great.
first is what you're talking about with like fiction, non-fiction is Paradays by Fernanda Melchor.
Mm,
Um, and it follows two teenage boys in a poverty-stricken area, one of which has increasingly vivid and disturbing fantasies about his neighbor that he relays to this other boy.
Hmm.
And it just barrels towards this inevitable conclusion of he's gonna act on it. And
Hmm.
a spoiler, that happens, but it's just so disturbing. There's nothing supernatural about it. There's nothing hugely gory about it until maybe its end. But again, it's just one of the most disturbing things I've ever
Hmm.
read. And then oh yeah, Adam, you were just talking about like documentary style, kind of matter of fact. And for that, this is maybe more of an extreme horror than a splatterpunk. But there's a book called Violent Faculties by Charlene Ellsworth.
God, yes.
And that is extreme, but told as a dissertation. She is like dismembering people like it's a tax return.
No, God.
She's exploring these deeply philosophical questions. She's a philosophy professor who's been sacked. And now, with her free time and pent up rage, she is conducting her own experiments on people. And it's almost like short stories, and it's horrible.
Yeah, you know, that's one that's really interesting because it is written in a really detached way, but like as the reader, this character is not detached and they're doing this because they are so filled with anger and rage at what happened to them. But again, yes, like you do read of people that have either been fired or wronged in their jobs, obviously taking retribution in different ways. So there is something very believable about what
Mm-hmm.
happens in that book. And again, it's written almost cleverly because, like, there are times when you don't quite realize the extent of what is going on, so that is
Mhm.
so horrible until you're like, "Wait a second," and something, like, snaps, and you're like, "She's doing what to these people?" You know, and these different experiments, it is horrifying for sure.
And that is reeled off like, "I do this, and then I do that,"
Mhm.
like it's nothing.
And, like, yeah, and the whatever, the she doesn't even call them people at sometimes, it's like, "The subject did this," you know, and it's
Yeah.
like,
Oh,
so it's yeah, that's a really good one. I think one
m'kay.
that also, like, comes to mind for me that's similar to your first, and I'm sure you've read it and is talked about a lot is The Girl Next Door by Jack Ketchum,
Mhm.
and that is a book that, a lot of people can't get through and,
Yeah.
can definitely be classified as extreme horror, but also is one that, when you really step back, is not really that gory. It's just so bleak
It's
and
based on a
really just
case.
makes you look at the people around you and think, would you say something? Would you do something? Would you interact? Would you be part of it or would you not? And it's hard to answer that.
Wow. What a question.
I'm glad you've brought it up because it is, in my opinion, the most horrifying horror novel there is.
Mhm.
It is based on a
Wow.
real case, which makes it much, much more
Yes.
horrifying.
Yes.
And it is horrible to get through. It's seconded by Let's Go Play at the Adams by Mendel W.
Oh
Johnson.
god, yeah.
And the only reason it's second is because I don't think that's based so explicitly on a real case, but equally just grotesque.
You guys sound like you have been in the trenches here
Yeah.
I've been
of
through a
some
lot.
books.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Do you have like a ritual after you read something that heavy?
I read a normal horror book after that. Uh,
Okay.
one of those boring ones that blends into like 50 others that I mentioned earlier. One of those. Yeah,
There's a 10-minute stare at the wall period before that,
Mandatory.
that
goes without saying. Yeah,
yeah, find some sort of snuggleable animal to,
as soon as
ground
possible.
yourself in it. Yeah, exactly.
How far in between reads like that until you go back again?
I am all over the place with just reading
Yeah.
generally. I pick up whatever comes to mind. It could be a matter of hours. It could be weeks. I don't know. Depends on where I'm at mentally at the time.
Yeah, you definitely develop a thick skin after you've read a few of them, I think too, where and, it kinda does depend also, I think, on how well written it is. I think, like, it can kind of both go both ways. If it's especially well written, it's hard to read something that disturbing again quickly because it affects you more sometimes when it's written better.
Yeah,
But then also, if it is written really well and, not that you wanna say you enjoyed it, but you recognize the greatness of it, you kinda wanna read more from that person that wrote it
Mm.
potentially, so you sometimes find yourself right back there again.
Do you feel like you have to find somebody to like talk to about it? Like,
I
I
would
just
rather
went through
not go
some
to
shit.
prison, so sometimes when you tell someone you've read something like
No, I
that,
mean
they
like a
look at you.
safe person that like George that
Yeah,
reads.
that's true, that's a good one.
I have some long-suffering online friends that I force to read them as well, and we talk about them at length. So yeah, I
Are you
mean,
raising your hand at him? Is that what I'm seeing? Like you want to be part of that?
Yeah, we can
Long
definitely
suffering fan, yeah,
yeah.
you
friend.
can join me anytime, Adam. I will send you a list.
It was funny because Duncan Ralston, I had never met before, extremely nice man. But I'm just like, I don't even wanna look at you because 'cause I've read Womb. You know,
Hmm.
Which one was
Yeah.
that?
he wrote Ghostland that the board game is based upon,
But I
but
like he was
that was not the actual
yeah,
author
he
that we
was over
talked
in the
to,
other
that
room,
was the
yeah.
yeah. Um, Womb is one of the most despicable books I've ever read, and I'm sure he would love me saying that, so,
Despicable as in
I'd read what it's about and you'll know.
Yeah.
Have you read that one,
Um,
George?
I have. I read it very soon after I heard the truth. Yeah, I really did throw myself in the deep end. I did, yes.
this is a fascination. So like clearly like there's a lot of people that are interested in this, like and find it to be I mean, I would assume without having read these things myself that this feels almost like okay, bear with the analogy here, but like if you all have been long time horror fans and you've read a lot
Mhm.
of things, it's like it's gonna take a pretty scary roller coaster or like a pretty scary haunted house,
Mm.
like when people go like in it's spooky season where it's like where, you're trying to actually get scared. So, there's the ones that are curated around town here, or you can go to the actual like Eastern State Penitentiary and
Mhm.
like try to like
Or those ones where you have to sign a waiver that they can
yeah,
actually cut your hair and beat you,
Mhm.
yeah.
and these are those books.
That's what that is it. Okay, so I'm on the right page. Like
Yes,
this is for people that
are
like
signing waivers, yeah.
yeah, okay.
Mhm.
All right.
Yeah,
So that's
I
what
think
you need to know.
that's a fair analogy. I would say yes.
So, are you willing to go into some controversial areas, George?
Always bring it on.
Okay. So, when I look at things, especially the authors in sort of the online realm, and I'm not gonna say any names here, I'm just gonna be very, like, wide. I would say that splatterpunk authors, generally, when we look at it, are left-leaning, are in the liberal side. I have found in the horror community in general is very much left leaning. And that's because we've talked about this a lot. The capital O, other, that oftentimes, horror people have been branded and all this kind of stuff. The community is very liberal. The only place that I find to sometimes not be is that extreme horror community.
They're MAGA members?
If you're going to find one that is, they are extreme horror fans. Do you
Hmm.
agree with that?
It's not something that I have particularly noticed, but it's something that
Okay.
I believe. I mean, I'm over here in the UK, so I'm just watching the news. I'm not so much kind of
Watching us descend to fascism,
watching
thanks.
you descend into madness. That's the one, yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think that's an interesting observation. I don't know why that is, but
Yeah.
yeah.
But why do you think it is, Adam?
I
Why
I
did
was just
No,
wondering
but I'm
about
saying
that.
like if you were gonna find one, what's
So
that?
and that's not gonna be all
No.
authors or all books. However, extreme horror, as, George, you talked about, is sort of like, here's the really fucked up shit. Here it is. I'm not gonna get into it. I'm not gonna tell you about it. That's it. And I think that sometimes both writers and readers, again, no names, no specifics whatsoever, but you get into it, like, especially ones that involve a whole lot of misogyny and essay. Are they writing their fantasies, or are
It's
they?
like the purge on paper, like they really hope it comes to life, like the
Mm,
permission.
I wouldn't say that. I would just
mm,
say what their fantasies, like other people have other fantasies, they revel in certain topics and things that are happening. And I think that that is happening in that space. And when and this is something that, talking to an extreme horror author, I would be interested in saying, how do you balance the sort of like, the purpose of this is to shock? And also, do you take any responsibility for someone that would be reading this and sort of being attracted to it? And that's going
Mm.
to be an issue in any type of horror, in any type of artist. But I just find there are some people that seek out those things. And if they do, and they are that type of person, that's where they're going to find it. So within the community as a whole, the problematic, or, that kind of stuff is going to be found there. And I just find that really interesting because it's sort of such extremes on both sides. The absolute sweetest and nicest people you're going to find in that area. And then, on the other side, there's going to be some deeply
So
problematic
I
people.
feel like what I'm hearing you say is like a lot of the things that we talk about is that people use horror to process their trauma
Hmm.
and to work through upsetting things that have happened to them. Like they'll kind of rewrite it out, whatever. But that these people that you're thinking like might be, as you said, revel or fantasizing or just like it is, it's not for a therapeutic point.
I mean, I
Yeah, go ahead, George.
I mean, therapeutic
I
means they don't
think
actually commit it in real life.
I think that I'm sure there are I mean, I can think of examples of writers and readers who that is the case for, but I would say generally probably not. I think that argument is something that is applied to horror more broadly as a genre all the time. You know,
Hmm.
if writing about extreme horror or just horror generally equated to fantasy or real life, I think Stephen King would be in a lot of trouble. I think
Hmm.
all horror authors would probably be in a lot of trouble. So I
Mhm.
think that it's definitely something worth pointing out when we see it. I think it's something that does happen and needs addressing, but I don't think generally that's the case. Most of them, as you said, are pretty nice people, which it kind of makes it all a bit more disturbing. But yeah,
And, it's funny, and because it also works with, not just extreme or splatterpunk, but like grief horror is having its moment right now too. And I
yeah,
absolutely love grief horror. And very similarly, I think like a lot of times being raised up as the sort of like master of grief horror is Clay McLeod Chapman,
yes,
who, as we all know, is one of the most like he's basically a stand-up comedian when you see him in
Mhm.
person. Like he is performing, he is funny, he is like
He's
so
fall
falling off of tables, and then you read his books and you're like, "How could you do this to me?" And what do
yeah,
you think like that those kind? Because
I think he's
that
a really sad person inside, to be honest. And I do. Like sometimes when you talk to him, he's just so like straight faced and honest and sincere. And I feel like
so
he,
it's just high emotion in all ways that you see
yeah,
him. Yeah, whether it's writing or his
yeah,
acting.
like I don't know, like unpopular opinion, you can edit it out if you want to. But I just feel like he is always joking and performing, but I think really he is very, very sensitive.
yeah. I mean, Clay is just. I have an interview coming with Clay in which he sings me in,
God.
and yeah, he is very high energy, and I love that about him. I hope he's okay. I know I'm not after I read Kill Your Darling, but yeah, yeah,
I think that it's funny because, it used to be, we live in this social media world now where authors have to be their own marketers and salespersons and all that kind of stuff. And it used to be, I forget who it was that I read, but this was, back in, F. Scott Fitzgerald, Hemingway days, that the more interesting the writer, the worse their books used to be.
mm,
And I think it's like the opposite now that, authors have to
Self promote.
self-promote so much that they've become characters within themselves. And I think that's an interesting thing to watch.
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, look at Chuck Tingle, right?
It's a good point. Yeah.
What do you have to say about that, Buckaroo?
Yeah.
Have not indulged in any of Chuck Tingle's erotica, but I love the horror.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yet to read Camp Damascus. Yeah, Lucky Day is my favorite of the two that I have read, and
I
I
just read
love it.
that. I really liked it.
Yeah, it's just insanity, right?
I just feel like, in a weird way, like I feel like I could see it happening. Like it
Yeah,
reminded
it's
me a lot of like the parts that I really like the deep parts of like the last two Marvel movies of like after the
The
shit.
Avengers movies
Yes.
of like
Of like the
the Thanos
bleakness
kind
and
of.
like,
Okay.
yeah, and like the snap and half the people went away and what that's like. Yeah. I really liked it. But I
Yeah.
also liked a lot of these kills in there. They were like, holy shit, they're wild.
It's weird. They're almost like a weird flip side of coins of Wake Up and Open Your Eyes and Lucky Day in a way. They're
yeah,
done very differently, but they both like escalate so quickly. You
that they do.
know, yeah. So it is very interesting to see those.
But I will let you know when I do indulge in one of the other
The
versions of Chuck
Tinglers.
Ting. I think it was last week I learned about the Tinglers. I was unaware that that was such a thing.
Yeah, I think he won a Hugo Award for one of them, like Space
Yeah,
Raptor book or something.
Well,
they are
I have to try it
they
now.
are some of the greatest titles in all of.
They are the ones that you showed me. I'm like, okay, I don't even know where to start, which one to pick.
Yes.
What
So many.
do you remember title off the top of your head for our listeners to
The
like
thing is they're like as long as Narek Laraka titles, so
longer?
it's very hard
Longer.
Stay tuned.
trying to remember
I'm gonna
them. The
turn
library card one, whatever, like really cracked me up. But
There's one that really makes me laugh. I've got it up. I've not just memorized it for anyone listening. It's called
sure.
Hounded by the Physical Manifestation of the Shockingly Massive Importance of Pre-orders when Supporting Authors You Enjoy in the Traditional Publishing Industry. And I think that's an amazing title.
it.
The funny thing is like I don't know, I don't think they're like especially long, books, but it's like, man, he gets these things out and they exist. The very fact that all of these exist make me so happy.
Unfiltered, pounded in the butt by my living water filter pitcher who learns there are more important things, and then it gets blurry. But yeah, I mean, that's okay. Here's the library card one too. Pounded in the butt by my handsome sentient library card, who seems otherworldly, but some of the prices resources our library system provides.
Yeah, I mean,
And you
something
said they won awards.
the Raptor one did.
Yeah,
I forget what it is.
Hugo
It's like
Award
Space
winning.
Raptor or something like that. Yeah. Uh,
I don't know, man. I think I gotta go with this one. I think this is gonna be my first one. Conservative pounded by the realization that the protest music he grew up on actually supports his current hateful ideology. That sounds like the one for me first.
yeah, that's really good.
Yeah, report back, please.
You know what? I sure will. While I send you the CJ Lead thing about the news articles.
Yes, and
You said no worries.
please send me.
Wait, I have one more question about Chuck Tingle.
Okay.
For people that don't know, like myself, that didn't know that no one actually knows who Chuck Tingle is.
Or if I
Mm.
mean that might be Chuck Tingle. No one knows what he looks like.
Yeah, okay. I'm wondering, like,
Or if he's CJ Lead in disguise, as she that one amazing video.
yeah. So I'm just like, do you have any thoughts behind this as to who it might be?
I am not sure that it's an existing horror writer. I think it would be very fun if it was, but I just don't think that there's enough time in the world to write all of those little
Hmm.
Tinglers and horror novels and then another batch of horror novels. So I imagine Chuck Tingle is just Chuck Tingle, which makes me sad. I'm waiting to be proven wrong, but I have no theories, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think it's the whole gimmick is just fantastic. The closet, the clothes, everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I mean the whole love is real, like sort of revolution phenomenon that he has is almost like the opposite of what I was just saying before with what I've sometimes you see where it's just and especially after like the election here in the US, like he had really amazing things to say about hope and love and still
Yeah.
Mhm.
does. And I just love his whole platform. It is just amazing. So all the love to him. And I think as we record this, Lucky Day came out today.
Yes, it did.
It
Um,
did.
and I think that's, no matter what.
That was such a good book. I would pass that book to like, anyone that likes like a kind of a thriller or a suspense or like what the fuck is going on here?
Fantasy, like fans of like
Yeah.
Jeff
Mm.
Van Mayer's books, even it goes
Yeah,
to
like
places like
I
that.
would,
Like
but I really liked it. Like it's one of those ones. Like if you haven't,
it has an X-Files feel to it.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I have
Yep,
to
yep,
say,
yep.
though, I do think that some of Chuck Tingle's body horror is very Barker-esque.
Yeah.
I've
Very
heard there's
what?
a
Parker.
scene
Oh, I don't
I
know what
heard
that.
there's a scene in Camp Damascus. I think I've not read it. I'm just heard through the grapevine that someone's like turned into a harp or something, and like nerves are strummed like strings. And that is how much more Clive Barker can you get than
Yeah.
that? You know?
Yeah. Absolutely. You'll have to send me. I had not heard of that first recommendation about the two. What was that first book before Violent Faculties that you
Something with a
recommended?
P.
By Fernanda Melchor.
Yes, you'll have to send
Her
that.
big one is Hurricane Season, which I haven't read. Um, but yeah, Paradays.
We'll definitely put
I
that in the
will.
show notes for this one.
Yeah.
Excellent. It reminds me also, Megan Stockton has a book, Pink Neon, that's fairly recent. That's about a female sex worker that is telling stories to another woman about the Johns that she purposefully, finds the worst people and seduces them and then kills them. And the other woman kind of doesn't believe these stories are real. And they kind of has this conversation as the night goes on. It begins more and more to realize that it might actually be happening.
We
What
got
she's
that book,
Mm.
saying.
right?
Yeah.
We bought that. Oh, it
Yeah.
looks so good. She was great.
So it's very like, that idea of like someone telling these stories and you're like, do they really want to do this? Is this really happening? Something about that is really unnerving and scary.
Yeah, I love the kind of. I mean, I love it in horror generally, but I just love storytelling as a theme.
Mm,
It appears in Womb and it appears in Ghost Story by Peter Straub, and I just think,
yeah.
regardless of the context, there's something about it I love.
Yeah, definitely. And even, Rachel Harrison's new book has the book within a book within that
Yeah,
Mhm.
structure. And that's, and actually,
nothing gets me going like metafiction does.
yeah. And that one's
Yeah,
even like the book within a book is annotated
I know.
by the character that wrote that book, so, you're getting into very like House of Leaves territory with footnotes and all these things. So I love that as well. So
I haven't read Play Nice yet. I'm gutted. I Oh, it upsets me. Every day I
Yeah,
wake up with a play nice shaped hole in my heart.
Well,
we'll tell
not
Rachel.
too long, but
Not too long.
Almost a month. That feels like a very long time. We'll see what we can do for you, George.
yeah,
Oh,
we'll see.
So, obviously we can find you a lot of places, TikTok, Instagram. If
uh-huh.
for some reason they don't know where you are, what is your handles? You also just started a podcast recently, correct?
Yeah, I did. So I'll start with the podcast. It's called The Terrorium, which isn't such a cool name when you have to say it out loud, but hey ho. I run it through Substack, and I described it as whimsical but inconsistent, and I'm staying true because I've done one episode. I've recorded plenty more. I'm just waiting on release dates. So there's that. That's wherever you get your podcasts. And then I am on every social media you can think of other than X, because I hate Elon Musk,
Yeah.
at George's Reads. So Instagram and TikTok are probably my best. And then Threads, Blue Sky, YouTube, Substack.
So find
And
them
then
on
I
LinkedIn. I'm just kidding.
maybe not LinkedIn. I write reviews for Fear for All, which is the cool, edgy side of fanfiaddict.com at the moment, which is, yeah, I churn them out and then I put them on my Instagram after. So if you want the full rundowns, that's where to be.
Awesome. Well, it was a pleasure as expected. Love talking horror with you. We should make it a regular thing here.
Yeah, be
Bring you
ready
on
to
to
buddy read when you're like, oh my God, this thing was horrendous.
I'm ready. I'm going to drag you guys into it.
No, no,
perfect.
no. Just Adam thinks.
Why not the both of you? We
I
could
will
have a
try a
nice little.
Splatterpunk.
Yeah, we'll
I
get
will
her.
try a Splatterpunk.
We'll get her.
Cool.
Yeah,
We'll
you
all sit down
probably
after
will.
and chat about it. Maybe a little cocktail night in which we just complain about the horrors we've subjected ourselves to.
Okay,
I love
yeah.
it. Perfect.
We could maybe a little light Christmas Eve reading.
Yeah. I'm sure there's many transgressive Christmas horror books out there in the world
There are some.
waiting to be read.
Listen, I read some of those short stories, and a lot of this shit is scary around Christmas time. I've read some of the best, like that one that I read to you.
The Christopher Golden story.
Uh,
That
my
was in
fave.
what? Who was that? Ellen Datwell's Christmas
Yeah,
story?
she did one to retire
Yeah,
too.
Oh, it
no,
was
that was really
excellent.
good. Yeah, Lindy Ryan's Darkest Night, but anthology is also excellent. Nat Cassidy's. Have you read Nat Cassidy's story about the elf?
I am
That one is
sure I
excellent.
probably have, but
Somebody
Okay.
wrote
can't
that.
remember.
Yeah.
Okay, because you've read that to me like twice, and then you read it to our exchange student.
Yes.
She was like
But
halfway through, I was like, Adam, you have to stop reading this. She's not
yes.
finding it funny.
Mhm.
She's so upset,
Yes. Darkest Night.
but I thought it was
anthology.
great.
If you have it, just look up Nat Cassidy's story in there. It is the greatest elf
Yeah, it was.
splatterpunk story you'll ever
That's why I
read.
thought it was hilarious. It was
Well,
really
it goes
clever.
there. Yeah, it goes there. So
It was very clever. But I didn't know Nat Cassidy at that point. I hadn't met
Mhm.
him. I hadn't heard him speak or anything.
Yeah.
And now when I pair the two, I'm like, that makes sense.
There
And I
is-
wonder why it
told
was
him,
so
yeah.
funny.
There's a great Christmas horror novella called Lucky Girl, How I Became a Horror Writer by M. Rickert, which is 50 pages long, and that is another great Christmas horror read. And also the new Eric LaRocca, We Are Always Tender With Our Dead, it has a little Christmas backdrop. It's like the Die Hard of Splatterpunk.
Okay.
So yeah.
Gemma Moore has a really great Christmas little novelette as well, The Christmas at Blythedale Inn. So,
Yeah.
Oh.
yeah. So, yeah, a lot of people have done some really good Christmas stuff. But
Yeah, you don't look.
Brian
and
McCauley's Candy Cane books, obviously.
the reason this is coming up is because after spooky season ends, it doesn't have to.
Then spooky season just starts all over again.
Because it really
Exactly.
is like at that time when you look at the Yule Cat and all these different things that
Well,
so much of it just doused in.
Well, the UK, George, UK knows
Oh, I
Christmas
know.
time is horror time. So,
Oh, yeah, we are full of Christmas folklore, and
We
it's
have our-
horrible.
We have our first Krampus knock, locally around here that we.
oh yeah, we have I
So
just got my Krampus hat too, so ready to go.
I wish we had one of those. The closest my little town has is the Pina Colada Festival, which is this weekend. Because the guy who sings, "If you like pina colada,"
Yeah.
that guy,
oh my
he's from my
God.
town apparently. So
No
we honor
way.
him every year with a Pina Colada Festival. That is the closest I have.
I got sick on them one time, like,
That
and that's
happens.
a shame because I really loved it. Well, like like I had started taking a new medication and it was like it just didn't agree with me, right? And so like I smell it now and I'm like, man, I know that's gonna be refreshing and great,
Yeah.
but
Well,
I'm
that
not sure that I like
created
them.
some of my own body horror from that one.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that I like them, but I have to drink them. It's an obligation.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, it's
it's a
hometown pride, you
responsibility
got to.
actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's we have some local tomato festivals around here. And there's, I guess, if you go further up into Pennsylvania, like then you really get the pierogies and the kielbasi.
Well,
Like,
Pennsylvania Dutch, we have a very big German tradition here, so I'm surprised there isn't more Krampus,
yeah.
stuff,
So
so
we are about to enter into festival season here hard.
I am very jealous. You should campaign for more Christmas horror things. The two of you, you should start something up.
Uh, Thank you for saying that because that is part of things that I'd like to do for Loud and the Library Studios, being our parent company, to have some other fun things going on. And I appreciate that because you're right. Like, that would be, I have a lot of ideas. I just need to like do that movie like Multiplicity where I like double and
yeah.
triple myself
Just
sort of
try not
thing.
to make them less intelligent the more that you do them,
Look, I
so
like that movie. It
yeah.
was very so. But no, I appreciate that because I think there's a lot of want and desire for more community for things like that and book related stuff and some spooky things. So
Mhm.
yeah, I
I
like it. Thank
empathise.
you.
I
I
am
will send you
not
a
only in
free
the
ticket.
UK. Thank you. I
Yeah.
empathise because I am not only in the UK. I am in the north of the UK, and it's desolate. Right. I am attending my first horror event in October with Gemma Moore and Neil McRobert, and that's it.
My
Yeah.
gosh.
And that's a good like 2 hours away, which I know in America is like nothing, but it's not.
Yeah.
But everything that happens in the south,
Yeah.
and not
Oh,
much happens then. So I am very much looking
Well,
forward to.
good.
I've been
Good Boy was
reading
so damn
well,
good.
that's the thing, I've been
Oh
reading
my
all
god,
those Northern Weird, what is it, project that
Northern Weird Project. It
yeah,
was
they've
written
all been
for me. I'm telling
fantastic.
you. Yeah,
Yeah.
I Good Boy. I think is the perfect novella. There's not
Uh
a
huh.
word out of place in that book.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Why are people? I saw it again today that someone was trying to say that this freaking movie for Good Boy is coming out
it is. There's a
Mm,
movie called Good Boy coming out that has nothing to do with the
that
book.
also has a dog in it.
Yeah, but it's about ghosts.
Okay.
I saw Neil post about it, and he was like, "Is this a huge advantage, or is it absolutely not that?" And I was like, "I don't know." But
Well, the thing is, I have heard it is excellent too. So, as long as it leaves a good, if the reviews are good, it can hopefully only help. Yeah, I just, I met Neil at Stoker before I'd read. Obviously, everyone listens to Talking Scared, but um,
mhm.
after reading it, I'm like, you son of a bitch! This is the first thing you've written.
Yeah, he was
The
there. He
level of
looked you in the eye, and
perfection.
he knew.
Yeah,
He knew he was going to break your heart.
yeah,
That's cold.
His
yeah.
words and his like it was just a beautifully written book and the love story between a man and a dog.
Yeah. I think I described his prose in my review. I clearly was insane because I likened it to like a hot pot or a casserole,
Mm.
very warming tea. And then I thought at the time, yes, this is genius. I should write. I should write professionally. When I reread it, I was like, that is the cringiest, weirdest thing I've ever heard in my life. But yeah,
Funny because it's like you think of it as like this highest praise when you write it, and then you're like, wait, is that a good thing?
yeah, I was sat at my keyboard like, yeah, this is my finest work.
It's good to know that this happens to everybody where you're like, my God.
I look at reviews from a year and a half ago, and there's like spelling errors in the first sentence, and I just
My
kicken myself. Because our website doesn't have an editor, so Fanfi Addict, I read a book, I rather rushly, oh, I don't even know words anymore. I compulsively write
hurriedly.
out a review. I empty my brain into a Word document, and then I stick it on the internet for all to see. And it turns out that has consequences.
I
But
feel
yeah,
you. 'Cause I try to just do it just for myself, like on Substack and things, because I think we're in the same place where we read so much. If you don't write that review in the first like day or two, it's gone.
nightmare.
Like you're 7 more books, you know.
Hmm.
So, if
So
I write
I
something, I'm like,
envy you.
Adam, look at how good this is. And I'd be like, what were you trying to say here? And I'm like, Okay, it's clearly the letter, like the word done. I spelled it with a fucking F or something. And well, I wasn't sure what you were trying to say. And I'm like,
I completely disagree
God.
with that.
I need my own Adam to prevent this, like, the garbage that I put on.
I was in, I'm a teacher, so I walk in and they put this big bulletin board up, and it's like a mirror, and it's like you're responsible for this. Look in here to see who's responsible for your grades, your attitude, your all this stuff, and it's like appearances, and I was like, that's spelled wrong, and they're like, you fucking asshole, and I'm like, it's spelled wrong. It's like you want kids to. And the best part is it was the gifted teacher that put it up. So I was like, fantastic.
Look, it can happen to
And then
anybody.
like I'm telling the principal and he's like laughing at it. He's like, I was like, oh, by the way, your email said that our meeting's at 10:30 to 11:30 p.m. And while, I run on second shift too, I don't think that's what you meant. And he's like, you motherfucker. I'm sorry, I can't help it. I just see them. So I
Well, I
hate
mean,
myself too,
typos
don't worry.
No,
typos
it's
are
not
rough.
that part that I'm saying. I like when you help fix things. It's when you're like you wouldn't do that to your principal. You'd be
Yes, I
like,
would.
no, you're
Oh,
like,
I would.
I'm not saying that. You'd be like, I'm not coming like at 10 p.m. Like with me, you'd be like,
Mhm.
I'd be like, damn well I meant a.m. Well, it says p.m. here.
Well, it
Yeah.
happens to the best of us. I'm reading King's Sorrow by Joe Hill at the moment, and I know it's an arc, so it'll all be fixed. But there are some mistakes in that, some big spelling mistakes, and I'm like, oh, if it happens to Joe Hill, then it can happen to
Yeah,
anyone.
you could forgive yourself.
Yeah,
That is kind of fun when
Exactly.
you discover things like that.
I never know. It's like
Yeah.
sometimes when I'm reading an arc and stuff like that, I'm like, it's hard for me not to be like, should I say something to someone? It's like I feel, especially if it's like an author that I really like know and like want to make sure. I'm like, someone's gonna see it.
Yeah.
Someone's gonna fix it, right?
How bad
So,
does that eat at you?
oh,
It's terrible, isn't it,
all
for
all
you?
day and night.
You probably go, yeah, just rolling around with it.
Yep. So
And I'll be like,
Well,
Adam,
no,
did
there's
you read like a severe horror? Did you find a typo? Because your
mm,
reaction's the same.
they didn't put the apostrophe e for it was the wrong your.
that is terrible, unforgivable. 1 star.
Yes.
Monster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you again. This was wonderful and tons of fun. Enjoy the rest of your night. Enjoy not sleeping.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Sure you'll read. Well, if you're reading King Sorrow, you might actually only read one book this week.
Yeah, I'm trying to break it up with like short stories and anthologies and things, but I'm actually so obsessed with it that I'm not. I'm very bad at breaking it up, and I may never sleep until I've read the remaining 500 pages of it.
That's one of those books that you can also use as a weapon.
Yeah,
So, but yeah, I'm excited for that one too. That's one that I didn't get. You can be sad
I
about
felt
Nice, and I can be sad about King Sorrows.
deal. I mean, I felt very privileged because I got not only did I get a copy, I got a physical copy, and I
Ah,
squealed when it arrived. But
yeah.
actually, I'm now the consequences are catching up with me because my hands are in agony. It is a doorstop.
I can only imagine. You gotta do
Yeah, I
some
mean,
workouts.
they're doing it in hardcover. That is going to be rough on people. But yeah,
Yeah, like what are those little my friend said she was wearing those like little thumb
The things.
yeah, to help her fingers.
get me one of those.
It's not a bad idea.
Well, on that lovely note,
Bandage your thumbs, people.
yes, thank you again.
Thank
And
you, George.
yep, have a
Thank
good
you.
one.
All right, bye-bye.
You too. Bye bye.